President Obama heads to France next week to attend the G20 Economic Summit in Cannes. And so too is Microsoft founder Bill Gates. He's on a mission to convince some of the wealthiest nations and corporations to take care of the poor. And he has some innovative ideas on how to do it. But with the economic crisis rippling around the world, it'll be a tough sell. And Gates got a taste of that challenge when he visited Capitol Hill this week. I spoke to him about the frustration gripping Washington and much of the nation. Do you buy this notion that there's a sort of class warfare in this country right now?
No, fortunately, there hasn't been class war. Warfare is like where you're shooting at each other and
I know, but you know that
in the streets and
believe me, I know warfare.
Right. So how does it look?
The Buffett rule, for instance, and all the other proposals the president's making are being called class warfare by his opposition. Do you agree with the Buffett rule? Do you support that?
Well,
Why is it funny?
Well, I just can't imagine these millionaires and billionaires going down and bear-siding the streets because they're going to have to pay 4 or 5% more in taxes. I mean, it's going to be rough for them. There certainly is a case to be made that taxes should be more progressive, and you know that's being debated by various people.
Do you support the Buffett rule?
I'm not an expert on how we should do taxes. Clearly, you can't raise the taxes we need just by going after that 1%. Yes, I'm generally in favor of the idea that the rich should pay somewhat more, but to really deal with the deficit gap we're talking about, that alone, just numerically, is not going to be enough.
You talk a lot about education, and obviously we know and we've seen the figures that the more educated, the more you have a degree and further degrees, the less problems you have with employment, etc. But a new book is out, and it says Bill Gates was a college dropout. Steve Jobs was, Jack Dorsey of Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. Basically trying to say that it's not just about college, that entrepreneurs and innovators may need a different route for the kind of success that you've all brought and that, you know, America needs.
I think there are some people who will make their own route, and you know, those people don't need some guy to make a route for them. I mean, I don't think somebody's saying, okay, you go up to Reed College, you drop out after 6 months, you take various drugs for a while, you go to India. I don't think that's something we need some well-defined route for that, you know, 1 out of a million type person. For most people, being able to do mathematics, being able to read, have job skills that would let you be a nurse, job skills that would let you be a policeman, a teacher. You know, these are great things, and our capacity for doing that needs to expand.
Bill Gates' latest mission, getting the world's wealthiest nations to continue investing in the developing world, a tough sell when many countries' budgets are severely strapped.
At the G20 summit next month, you're going to propose for the richest countries in the world to do and keep their commitments and give more to some of the poorest countries. Isn't that a heavy lift in this era of austerity?
Well, if we really look at how the world's improved in the past few decades, it's very impressive how we've reduced poverty, reduced malnutrition, reduced the under 5 death rate. And we need to take the lessons, the generosity, the innovation, and carry that forward despite the fact we have this economic crisis.
How can you convince people here in this country that this is actually something that should be done?
Well, certainly if you talk to people about providing AIDS drugs to people who would die otherwise, or providing a malaria bed net that protects children, the U.S. voters are very generous about that. They're very excited that the U.S. has been the leader in both of those areas. And they're pretty surprised when they find out that it's less than 1% of the federal budget going to aid very broadly, where these high-impact health programs are just a portion of that. And so, you know, if we had a referendum on bed nets or AIDS drugs, I'm sure we'd do quite well, as long as it doesn't get buried under these general terms of, okay, the size of the government, or a broad term about foreign aid, which brings up a history of Cold War foreign aid that was not that effective.
You were on Capitol Hill. What sort of a welcome did you get?
They do have a tough constraint, and so the question of should these monies that help the poorest, that enhance national security, Should they be cut more than other things? Should they be cut equally? Or should they be preserved? That's something that they're having to think about. And I'm reminding them that every dollar makes a huge difference.
When President Obama says it's time to do nation building here at home, what's your answer to that?
Well, I think absolutely the United States has to go back and look at what's going on with our education system, what's going on with our medical costs, what's going on with our infrastructure, our energy, R&D. There's some very important things, which is why 99% of the budget will focus domestically. There's a question as you do that, the U.S. lead role in helping the very poorest get them vaccines and those things. Should you do your nation building by causing more of those people to die, or should you maintain, at least at the level you promised, that you went out and said that the vaccine fund, the global fund, we will put this money in? Are those promises going to be met? And that's really at risk right now.
There was an enormous outpouring when Steve Jobs died. I mean, I don't think anybody's seen a businessman get so much reaction. How do you explain that?
Well, Steve Jobs did a fantastic job. When you think about why is the world better today, the internet, the personal computer, the phone, the way you can deal with information is just so phenomenal.
You must have heard about the book that's come out. Walter Isaacson's written a book about Steve Jobs with his authorization. And he said a few things about you, which I want to run by you. He had some pretty tough words. He basically said that you were unimaginative, had never invented anything, and shamelessly ripped off other people's ideas. That's pretty tough stuff. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Steve and I worked together, creating the Mac. We had more people on it, did the key software for it. So over the course of the 30 years we worked together, he said a lot of very nice things about me, and he said a lot of tough things. I mean, he faced several times at Apple the fact that their products were so premium priced that they literally might not stay in the marketplace. So the fact that we, who are succeeding with high volume products, including a range of prices because of the way we worked with multiple companies, it's tough. And so the fact that, at various times he felt beleaguered, he felt like he was the good guy and we were the bad guys, very understandable. I, respect Steve. We got to work together. We spurred each other on, even as competitors. None of that bothers me at all.
Mr. Gates, thank you very much indeed.